Hi, I'm Susan Waters from Exceeding Joy. Our scripture this week is Hebrews 12, verse 1, that says, "Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a crowd of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that was set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God." Now today I want to talk about the segment on witnesses, and it says in the first version that we read on Sunday, it said, "Therefore we also, since we are surrounded by so great a crowd of witnesses." And the next version said, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a crowd of witnesses who by faith have testified of God's absolute faithfulness." And the last one, "So since we stand surrounded by all those who have gone before us, an enormous cloud of witnesses." Now, the witnesses are those that have gone before us and have endured great things, great trials. And in Hebrews 11:29-30, it talks about the various witnesses, those that surrounded Jericho for 7 days before the walls collapsed, and the harlot Rahab, who helped the spies escape Jericho, and she was the only one that survived the falling of the walls, and Gideon and Barak and Samson and Jephthah and Samuel, and there were so many that endured torment and torture, and they were mocked and scorned and beheaded and sawn in two, and there was so many things that they went through, and they went through that. Some lived, some didn't. But the key thing is that God's plan isn't finished. It doesn't always happen to us the way we think. Nothing turns out, rarely does it turn out the way we think it should. And yet, in the end, the big thing is that we follow the call of God on our lives, and that we end up with Jesus in the end, in the spending eternity with him. And what I find is that when these trials come upon us, and the word is very clear that they will come upon us, not necessarily the same ones that they faced, but when hard times come, it can be very difficult to stand, especially long term. And when we are standing long term, we get weary, and we're susceptible to the lies of the enemy. And the lies of the enemy are meant to discredit God, make it look like he doesn't care, he doesn't love us. And those lies hinder our intimacy, our closeness with God. And when that happens, we step back from him, and he is our power source. So we are to be encouraged that others went before us, and know that God is with us in the struggles, and we want to guard our intimacy with him. So I have two challenges for you today. The one is to ask God to reveal any lies that you've believed about him, and then write them down. And your second challenge is, for every lie that you listed, ask God to show you the truth about what happened. And an example is, years ago, God spoke to me on a Saturday night and told me a Sunday night, and told me he wanted me to fast and pray the next day. And as soon as I woke up Monday morning, the thought came to me to fast and pray, which isn't a normal thought that I think upon waking. And so I did that. I was praying, and then I got in my car around the noon to go to my prayer partners. It was the day that I was praying with her, and I ended up getting in a car accident. And the first thought in my mind was, that's my reward for obeying God. So to make a long story short, when I sought God and asked him to show me truth about that, he showed me that the enemy was out to destroy my life. And as I fasted and prayed, it stopped the work of the enemy. There was still a minor fender bender, but everything was taken care of. And God, I went from being upset at God to praising him for sparing my life. So if we don't ask God to show us truth, the enemy will show us deception. And that will hinder our intimacy with God, which will hinder our walk with him and fulfilling the call in our life. So be blessed today as you seek God about the truth so that the lies can be broken. We'll see you tomorrow.